James Winchester is an Oklahoman, a Sooner, and now a 3-time Super Bowl champion. Yes, 3 rings. That's more than Peyton Manning or Brett Favre or John Elway. Winchester, a long snapper, has been with Kansas City for 9 years, and a third of those seasons have ended with Super Bowl titles. Amazing, amazing stuff. We'll talk to James about his career in the NFL, how he made the transition to long snapping, and why he's been able to stick in the league. And of course, we'll talk about that latest Super Bowl win. But first, I want to say a word of thanks to these sponsors for supporting the Jenni Carlson Show. The Oklahoma Ford Dealers Association, Two Fellows Movers, MidFirst Bank, the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum, FireLakeJobs.com, Next Gen Roofing, 988, Oklahoma's mental health lifeline. Remember, drive into your Best in Oklahoma Ford dealers today for the best deals on Ford's full lineup of trucks and SUVs. Ford is the best in Oklahoma. And hey, if you're thinking about moving, let's face it, a box of pizza and a case of beer just don't work like they used to. Nobody wants to help you. But we know two fellas who love moving. At Two Fellows Moving Company, we offer free, no-strings quotes for your move. With over 20 years experience, we've pretty much moved it all. Our services don't end at moving either. Need to do some remodeling or spring cleaning? We've got you covered with dumpster rentals and junk haul services. Remember, quotes are free and there are no strings attached. If you're moving in Oklahoma, make sure to call the fellas. Visit twofellas.com for your free quote today. Well, James, hey, congratulations, a 3rd Super Bowl title. Pretty cool.
It's awesome. How cool is that? 3 Super Bowl championships. Never thought it'd be possible, but blessed to be a part of this team.
Well, we're sitting here about a week or so after the big game, the big win. I mean, do you just kind of walk around on cloud 9 for a while after something like that? Or do you get to sort of revert to being a normal human being, doing dad stuff, husband stuff? How does that work?
Yeah, well, you come off of and obviously we've got to do this a couple times, but you come back from the game and you kind of hit the ground running. You have exit interviews the day after the game. And those are typically those are kind of a more, down, somber meetings, depending on where guys are at. And obviously you get beat. Well, when you win the Super Bowl, they're like the most exciting interviews you've ever been a part of. Everybody's happy and in a good mood. And so it's the best exit interviews you'll ever have. But then, you have a one day off there on Tuesday and then obviously have the parade on Wednesday, which was, bittersweet with the events that transpired there. And then got the family out of town. We went out to Scottsdale, took my wife and little ones out there and got away for a little bit, enjoyed some sun before coming back last night. So we're finally back and things are calm and got to take the kids to school this morning. So things are a little more back to normal, you could say.
There you go. Well, hey, I do want to talk about the parade because that's become almost a winter tradition in Kansas City now with all these Super Bowl championships. And it was another big crowd, another great day until the unfortunate shooting that happened towards the tail end of all the activities. As you think back on that day now, what stands out to you just about everything that transpired that day?
Well, first our hearts go out to everyone that was affected. To the one who lost their life in the parade, in the shooting, and then all the children that were affected. Certainly our hearts go out to them and honestly just thankful for the response of everyone between coaches, players, people from all over the country, tweeting and posting Kansas City strong. That was very uplifting to see. But it was a great day until it wasn't. And unfortunately, something like that had to transpire, in a moment of celebration with so many people and, the fans and, coaches and everyone in this area, are certainly deserving of celebrating that day. And for that to be cut short by, gun violence, that was a difficult deal to go through. But, thankful that it wasn't any worse than it was. And obviously, in those situations, you imagine things could have been much worse. And so grateful that no one else was, seriously injured or killed. And just a lot of emotions, going back to that day, but definitely the highs and the lows.
Yeah, your teammate, Trey Smith, the offensive lineman, said that, you guys ended up around fans. It wasn't just teammates, coaches, families, that sort of thing, but fans as things were really hectic in that moment. As it sounds like it was just chaos in a lot of ways, James.
Yeah, it was. Everyone's having a good time, and when everything happened, we were exiting the stage, and saw a couple people running, and wasn't really sure what was going on. And then obviously heard that shots were fired, and so obviously they ushered us into Union Station, and they kind of put us in a holding pattern in there. I was thankful that I didn't get separated from my wife. I found her, and we were in a holding pattern there for, I don't know, probably 10 minutes in the hallways before we got word, hey, we need to go ahead and move to the buses on the east side of Union. So we started moving the buses, but it wasn't until we got to the glass doors to go to the buses that things got a little scary. And people were running. Law enforcement shut the doors, said, you need to get down. It's not safe. And so we really had no idea what was going on, what was going to come around the corner, just kind of in the dark there, and certainly a fight or flight response. And so we were able to make our way back into Union Station to get away from those doors, and found a closet, and we just got as many people as we could in there. Trey Smith was phenomenal in getting people in and orchestrating that whole deal, putting chairs up against the door. And big man was on his hands and knees, telling everybody that I got you, everything's going to be okay. And while holding that door shut. So, you never expect that you'd find yourself in something like that, in that kind of situation. But really proud of teammates and coaches and how they stepped up and just tried to take care of everyone. There was a lot of kids that got separated from their parents. And so really guys were just doing all that they could do in that moment. And you never expect to be in that moment, but when you are, you just do everything you can to help out.
Yeah. Yeah. And you being in that moment was, obviously your career as a long snapper. I don't know if anybody would have expected that this was the way that your football career was going to go. People around here know, obviously, your deep OU connections. Dad played football. Sisters were athletes at OU. You went to OU. But the long snapping thing, you weren't a long snapper out of high school. You went to Washington. You probably played everything there, for crying out loud.
That's right. Everything they'd let me play, I played it.
So you were a wide receiver initially, at least on the roster at OU. When did you think, okay, this is the way I need to go?
Yeah, well, my dream was to be a Sooner. And so when I walked on in summer of 2008, I was willing to play any position they would let me play. And I thought wide receiver was my ticket. When I came to campus early June of 2008, realized that the team was pretty stacked with talent, and it was going to be a difficult thing to break that bubble as a wide receiver. And so, honestly, it just so happened that the veteran long snapper, Derek Shaw, had partially torn his Achilles tendon. And so while I had mostly punted and kicked and played skill positions in high school at Washington, I did have the ability to long snap. So I thought, hey, this is a way to make the team. So in my mind, I thought, hey, if I can long snap and make the team, then I can play wide receiver. So it was kind of that thinking. And so walked on as a wide receiver, but ended up long snapping for the first 3 games of my true freshman year. Coach Stoops gave me the job, and was able to continue to snap for the next 4 years and earned a scholarship my senior year. But it was definitely an unexpected route to living the dream at Oklahoma.
It's such an interesting skill set. It's not something that most guys are trying to do or practicing much. Was there a point along the way where you thought, all right, I think I've got this figured out. I think I can actually, whether it was those early days when you first got to OU or even later, that you sort of thought, all right, I got this under control?
Yeah, the entire time I was at Oklahoma, my goal was not become the best long snapper I can be so I can go play in the National Football League. It was continue to get better as a long snapper, obviously, because the guys around me depended on it, and I wanted to continue to play. But I looked at it as a stepping stone to play wide receiver. So, and then it wasn't until really my junior year that I realized I'm going to have a hard time getting over this one. I probably should just keep long snapping. And so was fortunate enough that the coaches, they continued to let me play wide receiver all the way through, in a reserve role, and try to live that dream in my mind. But no one could have told me different at the time. Hey, just stop and continue to long snap. You've got a future there. I was out to prove everybody wrong and thought I could do it at the wide receiver position. And obviously, if you only could have, hindsight, right? You look back and see. But was very grateful for my time at Oklahoma, and certainly was a huge stepping stone for me to excel in my career and have an opportunity at the next level.
You land in Kansas City in 2015, but that means there's a gap there, James. 2013, you were with the Eagles, not an active roster spot, but had some time in Philadelphia. but it took a few years before the Kansas City connection happened. Was there any point along that time where you wondered, is this really going to happen for me?
Yeah, absolutely. I look back on it. I'm very grateful for the 3 years that I spent out of college and before I made it in the pros. I mean, there was a lot of unknowns, and in the moment, I personally knew, like a lot of people do, hey, I believe in myself. I think I can do this. But that with the numbers game of how many kids are coming out of college at all the levels, and you've got 32 teams in the NFL, it's a difficult thing and a hurdle to overcome. And so, I was very hopeful, but also realistic that it's going to be a difficult road. I looked at it as my mindset was honestly, I have nothing to lose and everything to gain, and I've got about three solid years / seasons before I'm going to need to go get a big boy job and move on and probably hang this dream up. And it really took to that year 3 before I made it. I spent 2012, 13, and 14 seasons without a team, and worked for several oil and gas companies across Oklahoma, brokerages doing landman work, and a lot of great coaches at Washington, my old coaches, and Davis, Oklahoma. They would let me come in and use their weight room and work out and, try to continue the dream. And had some opportunities here and there. You really just one-day workouts with teams, but nothing really stuck until 2015. And honestly, I was my wife and I were about to get married in March of 2015, and I signed with signed with the Chiefs 2 weeks before we got married. Go a little before that, and I honestly was about to hang it up, and there was a fee to go to a free agent combine in Arizona. That's where I actually got the connection with Kansas City and actually signed from that camp. And I almost didn't go to that camp because the fee was enough money that I thought I probably needed to put that towards my wedding instead of. And the guy that runs the camps actually called me and said, "Hey, James, I didn't see your name on the list. Are you coming to this camp?" And I said, "Yes, sir. I've been training. I'll be there." I was kind of holding out personally, going back and forth. Should I go to this camp or not? And ended up going to the camp, and that's where I signed with Kansas City. So thankfully, I had enough of an idea to go ahead and go to that camp instead of putting that $400 or $500 to the wedding. And I think it worked itself out in time. So very grateful for the journey and what it took and that time that I spent out. And it just makes this entire thing, having the opportunities to play for Kansas City for 9 years, playing 4 Super Bowls and win 3. I mean, it's just astronomical. It's incredible. And what a blessing it is and what a ride it's been.
Man, no doubt. And you mentioned all those Super Bowl wins, performances, 22 career postseason games, which ties Travis Kelce for the most in franchise history. I mean, you've played in a lot of big stakes games, James. Have they gotten any easier as time has gone on?
I think just like anything, the more you do it, the more experience you have, you do become comfortable being uncomfortable in those situations, in those games. And I've been very fortunate to play in a lot of playoff games in Kansas City and have been on the ride, with Patrick and Kels and Coach Reed and that gang. It's been an incredible. I mean, of all the teams you can go to as a long snapper and to have the opportunity to land in Kansas City, not too far from home, so many friends and loved ones back in Oklahoma. And for me, I'm an Oklahoma boy. I never wanted to really move off and live anywhere else. So very grateful also to not be East or West Coast, to be right here in the Midwest. And so, I mean, those games, I think, the more Super Bowls you play in, there is certainly a factor there that you've been there, done that. And, I've been fortunate to do it with Harrison Butker in every one of those. And so for me and him and obviously Tommy have played in 3 of those. It's the experience is huge. And I think that they never get old. I'll say that. They absolutely never get old, seeing the logo, on your jersey and on the football and the field all dressed up. I mean, it's the biggest stage in football. So what an incredible opportunity that I've had to do that. And man, it's been so much fun.
Let's talk about this year for just a second, this last season. After you guys win last year, the expectation outside and frankly, probably inside is, hey, go win another one. Why not go for another one? But, all seasons are different. And this one seemed maybe more up and down than the other Super Bowl seasons there in Kansas City. Did it feel that way on the inside? What was sort of your sense just as the season went along, how that team was, progressing, maturing, all those sorts of things?
Yeah, I mean, I think there comes a time at the end of every season that you hope you're playing your best ball going into the playoffs, and we kind of pushed the envelope on that one, and we just weren't putting it all together for a lot of reasons, and really didn't even I mean, we get beat by the Raiders on Christmas Day, and that was like the low of all lows, and then we sat a lot of our starters out in LA, and you're kind of like, well, this would be nice to have a game where everyone's playing, but it's also we're going to the playoffs. We have our seed locked in there, number 3. And so, you kind of go into the playoffs going, it's now or never. And it was an amazing experience to watch, coaches and players, everybody just kind of lock down and go, hey, we know what we can do. We know who we are, what we can be, and we know we can beat anyone. And really just having that kind of underdog mentality, and hats off to really everyone in the building. But I mean, our defense was huge throughout that run. Offense, we made plays and didn't make huge mistakes, in a lot of those moments. And, we're able to just edge people out in the playoffs. And I mean, it really took everyone, from offense, defense to special teams. We all played a huge part of that. And, it is pretty amazing to sit back and look at the run that we had, starting with Miami and Sub-Zero, and then obviously Buffalo in Buffalo, and no one gave us a chance. And then going to Baltimore, even more people gave us no chance. And it just the belief in the locker room and being verbalized by our coaches and just the whole thing. I mean, everyone believed. No one ever had a doubt that we couldn't do it. And we just knew it was going to be one play at a time and grinders of a game, all 3 of those. But then we have an opportunity to go play San Francisco in the Super Bowl. I mean, just so much to reflect on. I still have not gone back and watched the games. I feel like I zone out sometimes in those games, and you're focused on your job. So that's my off-season homework, because I want to go back and watch the games, because I know they were great to watch, and I feel like I miss a lot of that by just being in the zone and worrying about what I do. So, but it was incredible to be a part of.
Well, that was actually, I was going to ask you, you guys played in some really tight games, the Super Bowl, which we'll talk about in a second, but classic type of playoff games, really, with the way those games went down. In the moment, do you sense when you're playing in a game that is going to have people talking, or do you find yourself just, okay, what's next? Where's the next opportunity to kick a PAT, kick a field goal? Do you have sort of a moment where you think, hey, I'm in sort of one of these classic type playoff games right now?
Yeah, well, I think for us, from the player standpoint, is the entire season, we're everyone's Super Bowl, right? I mean, you go on the road and play wherever you play, whether it's Jacksonville. I mean, that's just an example, but all the way through, everyone wants to beat the defending champs. And so I think a lot of people don't realize is that it's like playoff atmosphere every time we step on the field, Thursday, Sunday, or Monday. So I think all of that experience, obviously having run the tables and done it the year before last year, having that experience this year with, I think, around 37, something like that, 35 to 37 guys that were on the field last year for that Super Bowl win. This year, I mean, it's a target. I mean, every week it feels like the playoffs for us. And so, because you're going to get everyone's best shot. And so then when you get to the playoffs, it's playoff ball, what you need to do and how you need to execute to win those games. But you really treat it like every other game. The stakes are high, but it really doesn't add any extra pressure to us, because it's there's no tomorrow, and really it feels that way all throughout the season. And so we were ready for everyone's best shot, and couldn't be more proud of the guys in the locker room and our coaching staff and defense, offense, special teams. I mean, everybody was just on top of it, and pretty cool to look back and see that we did it.
Even though the game atmosphere you guys get throughout the year might prepare you for the playoffs, the Super Bowl is an animal in and of itself because of the buildup, the week, all of the stuff. And this year it's in Vegas. What about that experience? I mean, you've been through it several times now. Is there anything about that ever surprises you, or, you're just like, can't believe this is happening? I mean, what's that Super Bowl experience like for somebody that's been through it like you have?
Well, everybody says they expect to be there, but we truly expected to be there. And everyone had that belief inside of our building, that we could go do it again. And having as much Super Bowl experience as we have, and especially with some of our key leaders on our team, that's huge. I think, Vegas, we knew Vegas was going to be massive, anything Las Vegas, and then hosting a Super Bowl. I mean, you just think about that for a second. You go, this thing is going to be bigger than any of the Super Bowls we've been to, just with the amount of people that it attracts and the events and everything. And, it was a good setup in Vegas. We stayed out in Henderson/Lake Las Vegas, both teams, 49ers and ourselves. And so we were away from the Strip, which was really nice. And only had a couple, we practiced at the Raiders facility. So that was, nice still being out away from the Strip. And so really, it's just when you have the goal to go win another one and to win a Super Bowl, the focus that's required, and the level of discipline that you need to have. And so our team, I feel like, did a great job with that throughout the week and stayed out away from everything and really focused on winning the game. But I think, again, that goes back to how we prepare each and every week, and then the playoff experience and expecting that we would be there, knowing that we had to do the work to get there. But obviously no one was surprised when we actually did make it to the Super Bowl, because we've been there and done that. And, hats off to the way our coaches lead. And really, it's just an amazing deal for me personally, growing up watching guys like Andy Reid coach, and then now being on the inside and just seeing how great of a coach he is and a great leader of men. It's phenomenal. So it's pretty cool to be witnessing history and playing side by side with a lot of these guys.
Speaking of history, your field goal unit made some in the Super Bowl, 57-yarder, longest in Super Bowl history. And it was a slog fest early, so you guys are really battling it out. But what about that moment when you knew you guys were attempting something that nobody else had ever done in Super Bowl history?
Yeah, well, our field goal unit, we stay ready, because obviously you never know how the game is going to go, and obviously we're always ready when called upon, and that's kind of the way we go into every game. But the further you go in the playoffs, you realize the margin between your win and your losses are so small, and a lot of times that's an extra point. How well you punt the ball, and how well you can make field goals and when you're called upon. And so. For us, we knew from last year's experience and through years in the past that in those kind of games, field goal is probably going to come up, and it could decide the game. And so, we treat every field goal the same, I guess. And you could probably ask myself, holder and kicker, the same question. We might give a slightly different answer, but doesn't matter if it's first quarter, fourth quarter, or overtime in the Super Bowl. We treat everyone the same. And pretty fortunate that to be a part of the longest field goal in NFL history. Although I wish that ball would have been a little lower. It was a little high of a snap on my end. I got a little greedy and one of those laces and ended up releasing the ball a little high. But Tommy did a phenomenal job of getting the ball down, and Harrison drove it through. And he's so well deserving of all the praise that he gets. I mean, he's one of the best, if not the best, to do it. And I'm very fortunate to get to go to work every day with him. And Tommy, incredible holder. He does such a great job week in and week out. And we take what we do very seriously and try to be as flawless as possible. And while we're all human beings and we're not perfect, we try to be as close to that as we can be. And grateful to get to play with those guys.
Yeah, you mentioned kicking whenever in a game, and you mentioned overtime. You didn't get to kick in overtime. That touchdown was a walk-off win, but
Yes.
You did have that field goal, 6 seconds to go, 29 yards to send the game to overtime. And like you said, there's some humanity that I would think has to come into that. But was that just do the job, or was there any thought of what was on the line in that moment?
Yeah, I mean, I think in those situations, without really thinking about it, you realize what's on the line. You realize that we need to make that kick, but we need to make that kick just like we need to make the extra point in the first quarter. And so you really just try to treat every one of those the same, and realizing that anything you do or think outside of your normal routine is probably going to have a negative impact versus a positive impact. And so, going down the wire, anytime we have the ball inside of field goal range, we're ready to go. And pretty cool when you have those opportunities, just like last year, having the opportunity to kick a field goal, and win a Super Bowl. I mean, who would ever thought? But when called upon, that's kind of our motto. And we work extremely hard, really 365 days a year to be as perfect as possible, and have a great unit, great coaching staff with Dave Tobe and Andy Hill, and just fortunate to have been a part of some really big kicks. And props to Harrison for knocking them all through.
Hey, if I'm not mistaken, you and Creed Humphrey and Wanye Morris are on that field goal unit. So 3 of 11 players, former
That's
Sooners. Am
right.
I right in that?
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah. Pretty cool having your
Woo!
Sooner brothers in there, Didn't have the opportunity to play with Creed in college, but obviously was a big Creed Humphrey fan and him being an Okie, and then obviously played with Blake. Didn't play with Wanye, but yeah, it's awesome. It's such a cool deal to have that, have your former alumni guys out there, and a lot of Boomer Sooners going on in the locker room, throughout the year, and in the just having fun with it. And so cool to know those guys and have history with them and represent the state of Oklahoma and the Oklahoma football program there.
Yeah. You've always been really open and forthcoming about your roots, whether it's Washington or Sooners or Choctaw heritage, your Christian faith. Why have those things been important to you, James, to be willing to talk about and share as your career's gone on?
Well, I think anytime for what I've done and had the opportunity to play at Oklahoma and then obviously in the pros, you always realize that a lot of this stuff is a lot bigger than yourself. And so to have the opportunity to represent people and see how proud they are of you for achieving certain, goals and dreams, that's huge. And, you just realize the longer you play, how much that means to your family, your friends, those, that you share heritage with. And it's such a cool deal. I mean, I think outside of all the good that comes from, playing in the NFL and personal experiences, that's probably the most rewarding thing for me is seeing how many people are rooting for you and care about you and the people that you represent, that's, such a rewarding thing for me personally, honestly, and knowing so many people back home, that I know and love. So yeah, it's certainly a very special thing and such a cool thing to represent everyone, I hats go off to everyone who has supported me in my career and it really means the world to me. And then obviously my family who've been there every step of the way from Little League, and all the way through Washington and Oklahoma and here. It's been a dream come true. So very grateful for all that I've been blessed with to be able to experience and do in this game of football.
I know your sisters watch with trepidation because, while you may be cool, calm, and collected out there for all those snaps, they may sit around sort of bracing. Oh, no, what happens? They're a little nervous for you, James.
Yeah, no doubt. I know they're a nervous wreck. So I always tell them they're like 100 times more nervous and anxious, I should say, than I will ever be when I'm playing. I'm so locked in. Not a lot could bother me in those moments, but I know family and friends watching those moments. I mean, I even get nervous watching. I watched a clip of the kick with how many ever seconds was it? 3 or 6 seconds, something like that, at the end of that game, and I'm like, man, I feel nervous watching this one. I'm way more nervous watching this kick on video than I actually was in the moment. So all that comes with experience, but so grateful to have all the sisters that love to support me and watch my career and to be there cheering for me in those big moments, as well as mom and grandparents and everyone.
Yeah. Hey, before we let you go, last thing, give us a little look ahead to the off season. Obviously now it's chasing another Super Bowl, but you've got a wife. We talked about your kids a little bit ago too. Do you get to be a dad for a little while, or do you have to get back into football mode pretty quickly?
Yeah, well, we do have a little time off. So, we typically only take, a week or two off from snapping and training, but we do get to go take the kids to school every morning but you finish mid-February and we go back to work with the team in late April, early May, and so you really have a pretty short off season. So yeah, I mean, you finally get to kind of have a normal life here for a couple of weeks, and then it's right back to training. But when you love what you do, you love getting back to work and trying to get better and try to be the best player that you can be at your respective position. And so I'm going to enjoy this time again. Like I said, we got back from Scottsdale last night and had a good time getting away a little bit. And now you just be a dad and we're looking forward to going back to Oklahoma and seeing family and getting to do a lot of the things that we don't get to do from late July through mid-February. So it'll be short and sweet, but definitely looking excited about this offseason and what the next month and a half will hold.
I know Kansas City fans are curious, since you're a free agent, is the hope that you can do a deal and be back in KC next season?
Oh, absolutely. I'm playing for the best football team in the National Football League, and I would love to be back. So I'm hopeful, but I think we'll keep rolling. But I'll be ready when they call. I'll tell you that.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, James, hey, we can't thank you enough. Congratulations again. Hopefully we can talk about Super Bowl number 4 in a year or so. That'd be awesome.
That would be awesome. Well, thank you for having me on. It's been a lot of fun.
And thanks to all of you. If this was your first time hearing or watching the Jenni Carlson Show, be sure to subscribe on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. Also, subscribe to our newsletter from the homepage at selloutcrowd.com and download our new Sellout Crowd app for your iPhone or Android. Thanks again for being here, and we'll see you next time.